This is Adam from Beyond Medicine. So I'd like to talk about Immortality Shiva today. Now, Immortality Shiva is part of the range that I did centering around a lot of the Hindu mantras. For the reason that I chose these particular group of mantras is that it's a very well-developed system of mantras. You know, the history, the symbology, the mantras themselves are quite rich. And what I was trying to embody here with this substance is the essence of Shiva. You know, he is the Lord of destruction, but it's not all about destruction. He's also, he brings us the yogas, he destroys ignorance, he destroys the demons. He's also the destroyer of the negative forces that we find oppressing us. And, you know, this version, this Immortality Shiva has got 5 different mantras related to Shiva. There's one, you know, there's a creation mantra. One of them is about his victory over this demon, and then the demon singing praises of Shiva to escape from the mountain where he's bound because Shiva squashed the mountain on top of him. So it's really a remedy which goes into a lot of the detail around Shiva as a god, as a creation. But I mean, for those who are not of this belief structure, one just has to look at Shiva as that aspect of destruction which destroys ignorance. Now, one of the examples, possibly the best example of this, is in traditional Vedic iconography. They have an image of Shiva standing on the dwarf. Now, the dwarf is duality, or the illusion. So the idea is like the illusion comes at us and it says, play with us, play with us, play with us. And what Shiva's doing, he's standing on the dwarf and say like, okay, I'll engage you because that's part of the play of life, but I won't let you, you know, overwhelm me or destroy me. So his foot is on this dwarf, and this dwarf is ultimately duality, the sense of a separation from the self, but also this idea that something is going to come and, you know, overwhelm us, you know. And in Buddhism, they talk a lot about Mara, the illusion. And the story went that, you know, when Buddha was meditating, Mara, the illusion, sent his daughters, and they danced beautifully before Buddha, and he was like not playing. And then he sent his armies, and the armies were about getting the Buddha to go into fear, right, or anger. And the Buddha was sat in his meditation, not playing. So this is one way of dealing with it. What I found with the Shiva, the Immortality Shiva, with all the mantras, is that it does something quite unique that I hadn't quite expected, is that it allows us to deal with this duality, but it does it in a very unique way. So if you imagine, we have 2 currents. We have emotion and thought, right? So take, for example, a normal thing is like Johnny, and who I don't like, and the emotion of anger. Now, normally these are paired. So I see Johnny, who I don't like, and anger arises in me. I get angry with him, and I go into this whole story around Johnny, and I don't like him. But what if we were to separate these 2, and then Johnny, who I don't like, but there's no emotion behind that, and then the anger arising separately without an object. And this is really what it does. It separates the thought and the emotion so we can process them separately. So we can literally watch ourselves and not be bound by these things, because everyone knows that, you know, once the emotions get involved in a story, then it gets quite heated and emotional. But if we're able to view a story like we would watch a movie, we can watch, you know, even terrible things in a movie without getting too involved, because it's not our story, it's someone else's story. And we can watch it, but we know it's a story, and we're not personally involved. We can watch, you know, a tsunami, you know, destroy a coastal town, and it's like, okay, that's terrible, but it's not our town, it's not us, right? But what if we were able to separate our emotions from the thoughts? Then we'd have much more control of the thoughts and the emotions. So what actually happens here is the emotions come up, but they have no object. So they almost just come up, it comes up as anger, but it has nothing to latch onto. And so it just dissolves. Or the person, the identification with the person comes up, and there's nothing to back it. There's nothing pushing it up. So it also just evaporates. You know, they talk about thoughts being like, they should be like snowflakes dissolving in the ocean. They should just hit it and dissolve. And this is kind of what happens when we're not bound by this duality of emotion and thought being paired. Now, this is really the problem. This is the root problem with the illusion, and what we have to deal with is that we've got the thoughts, we've got the emotions, it's like all paired together, and then I don't like Johnny, and we fight and blood, and you know, but if there's Johnny, it's like, there's no anger, but I don't like him, but whatever, I'm not feeling the anger, then it disappears. Now, another way that Immortality Shiva can really benefit people is, as I said, it's five mantras of the wrathful masculine archetype. So for people working with the masculine as an archetype, and like it or not, you know, it's useful for men to properly embody the masculine, and for women to embody the masculine in themselves, just to see what's going on. Now, like, for example, I made two wrathful, you know, versions, the Kali and the Shiva, and then two peaceful ones, the Lakshmi and the Vishnu, you know, one male, one female of both. And for example, when I took the Kali, there was a sense of just really strong cutting through. This will get done and nothing's going to stand in my way. And this is sort of what I felt with Shiva, but it was slightly more reserved. It was less forceful, but it was very present. It did this by letting us understand that everything at every moment is a set of these thoughts and emotions, and we choose to get involved or not get involved. But it was almost this gift of having them separated, allow us to see them as two separate things, and then we can run them as separate things and not be bound by them. So this, for me, really is the gift of Shiva, in addition to embodying the wrathful. And when I say wrathful, I don't mean angry. Wrathful, in Buddhism, they say that the wrathful deities, the wrathful aspects, are the most compassionate. So we need our wrath to go into the wrath to get things done. You know, everyone knows that when they get angry, they get quite proactive, but to do this very consciously, you know, the image I like to use is like, you know, the difference between a wrathful deity and a peaceful deity responding to something is, the child comes into the room, he smashes the TV. The wrathful deity smacks the child. The peaceful deity says, okay, nothing's happening, replaces the TV. Child comes in again, smashes the TV again. Peaceful deity says nothing. Third time, child comes in, electrocutes themselves, and the peaceful deity does nothing. So they say the peaceful deities are the most relentless, and the wrathful deities are the most compassionate. Why the most compassionate? Because it teaches the person the lesson once, and then it's done. You know, if we burn our hand on the stove, we learn, okay, this is not going to necessarily be a good thing. And we almost need that in order to teach us not to do that. Now, it's not a manifestation of anger. It's a manifestation of a strong feeling. And this is what this is. Now, sometimes we need this strong, direct, focused, masculine energy to push through. But it's actually quite gentle, you know, in contrast with the Kali, which is quite strong. The Shiva is it's held, it's strong, it's all the good aspects of the masculine, you know, the father looking after the child and like going out and working and bringing home money for the family. It's got all of that as well, but it's also got the techno nonsense from reality. And I believe it can be used as an educational tool to educate the body in what that actually feels like. If for whatever reason one didn't have a strong masculine presence growing up as a father or as a brother, and so one was lacking in that, it might be useful to ingest this, to imbibe it, so that we can actually model it in ourselves, so we can learn how it works in us, and we can actually just take that on without having to necessarily go through extensive courses or learning or masculine workshops or anything like that. If we can just take it, you know, we can. The example there would be, okay, well, if you want to know what an apple tastes like, right? You can read a 500-page book on the taste of apples and what apples taste like, or you can just eat the apple and then you know what the apple tastes like. And this is what taking the Shiva is. It's the distilled mantra of 5 different mantras, but these mantras have been chanted millions and millions of times, and they're seeing Shiva as he who destroys evil, he who overcomes obstacles, he who destroys illusion and binds illusion. The positive masculine aspects. I've even seen, you know, like in India, they have the bus drivers, they'll have a little Shiva, you know, picture on in their bus, and they'll light some incense and they'll do a Om Namah Shivaya and then drive like hell. They'll believe that in that moment Shiva is protecting them, and in the belief they are protected to some extent. Now everyone chanting this mantra is almost tapping into this archetype of the wrathful, but the wrathful in its form of destroying ignorance and evil, right? So, and protecting those who are weaker. So it's a very positive frequency. And as Stephen, who chanted these mantras, told me about Shiva, it's like Shiva is available for everyone. It's every man's friend. It's a very, he'll sit and talk to everyone in the sense of a deity. He's not so, as aloof as some of the other ones. So yeah, the 5 mantras in here really cover the full aspect of his nature: the compassionate, the wrathful, the disciplining of the illusion, the destroying of evil, all of these things. And often in Hindu mythology, when a problem arises, they'll call for Shiva, and Shiva will come and he'll destroy the problem in his own unique way. So, you know, whether one is of a more Hindu belief structure or not, it's completely irrelevant. This is tapping into this archetypal masculine form of wrathful compassion, which is also that aspect which allows one to step out of the situation and not be bound by the thought and emotion meeting together. And I can't stress this enough, because once we see that, we realize that we're not bound to automatically go into this. There's no contract where we sign where we have to go into the thought and the emotion at the same time. And if we can just see the thought and the emotion almost running as separate tracks, you know, like the one's the treble and the one's the bass, but they only come together and become a song if we let them, then we can separate them out and deal with them as separate things, and it's less binding. And this is the gift of Immortality Shiva. It also has 12 levels of immortality, so it's quite strong. I mean, and it's something that's able to really give us some perspective on our lives and on our living in the world. And this cannot be stressed enough. So the only other one that gives us this level of perspective is Immortality as God, but that gives us the perspective of stepping out of ourselves and be able to see ourselves. This is almost allowing us to separate thought and emotion as separate tracks, and seeing that and how we get bound when they're joined together. But as I said, it's much easier to be unbound by it if they arise separately. Then we can deal with them both as individual things. This is Adam for Beyond Medicine. I'm talking about Immortality Shiva. Join the channel. Please subscribe.